Remind me, why do you want me to come with you, Octi?
Octavia covered her face with a hoof, sighing into the soul.
Because I can hardly be seen to go to such an event alone.
Vinyl mused over the comment as the pair trotted towards the performance hall. It was just visible in the distance, exactly the sort of thing Victorian-era ponies thought would look cool. To Vinyl, it just looked old. She couldn't help but remember the jumpers her grandmare would knit for her, and she'd wear, begrudgingly. She stopped her daydreaming, turning back to Octavia.
And you don't have any friends who would, actually like this kind of music?
Octavia didn't meet her gaze, but she saw her eyes track everywhere from the floor to awkwardly pointing away to her right. Anywhere but a place where she'd meet Vinyl's own gaze.
They were all busy, playing their own orchestral pieces and the like.
She followed with a grin that made Vinyl want to push further. However, she felt there was probably a reason for the obvious lie. As a result, she changed the subject to something less awkward.
And why did I have to leave my shades behind? You know the looks I get because of my eyes.
What sort of looks? Your eyes are perfectly fine.
Vinyl snorted. A little puff of steam burst out into the cold, winter air.
Apart from the fact they're crimson red, it was cool in high school, but annoying now. Every pony jokes that I'm the nightmare with eyes like these.
Octavia giggled, bucking her rump slightly to readjust the cello case slung over her back.
Oh, Vinyl, you do say such foolish things. I think your eyes are lovely. Really.
Oh, you do you?
Vinyl leaned in with her voice, making the full weight of the implications known.
Well, as far as eyes go, they're quite striking. Oh, look, we're here.
Vinyl barely stopped herself from trotting straight into the form of a particularly buffed-out bodyguard. He was the kind of bodyguard you knew couldn't actually fight, and was simply a large slab of sapient muscle. However, the hours of bodybuilding and gallons of protein shakes had the desired effect, and Vinyl shrunk back from him. Octavia simply sauntered by him, pushing an insistent hoof into Vinyl's withers to get her moving again. She held out her ticket +1 in between her teeth, which was carefully grabbed by one of the bodyguard's hooves and ripped in two. He waved them through, glaring at Vinyl as though daring her to try something. Vinyl didn't know what he expected her to try, but felt that amongst the toffs and posh ponies that frequented these sort of establishments, she must seem like a shoplifter. Something she hadn't been for 5 years, she'd like to have pointed out. Sadly, Octavia's insistent pushing had moved her far past the bodyguard, which was obviously luckier for him than her.
Octi, you can stop pushing me. I'd like you to get your hoof off my rump at least.
Tiny trickles of blood seeped into Octavia's cheeks.
I was simply pushing you away before the bodyguard apprehended you for starting a fight or something. They can be quite prejudiced here.
Aren't I lucky to have a guardian Pegasus like you? Right, now, where's the refreshments?
Vinyl slammed her forehooves together, rubbing them eagerly against each other.
Through here, Vinyl, and please don't show me up tonight. This could be career-making for me. Just mingle in as polite a manner as you can muster.
Will do, Octi. I'll just camp near the nibbles.
Vinyl fled on her food-bound vector, homing in on a plate of something that both looked fancy and chocolate-coated. It had to be made by a high-class chef if it was in here, so in theory, it had to taste good too. Meanwhile, Octavia had ventured into the crowd looking for a seat, until she was sidelined by an infamously familiar green unicorn.
Well, if it isn't Octavia the cellist. Found another piece of driftwood to play your lowbrow concertos on?
Octavia whirled around to the source, a smug grin ready and waiting on her visage.
My, Lyra, still playing your clunky little harp?
This lyre is pure gold. Another league compared to that lump of dead tree you play on.
Ha! It's most likely gold-painted tin. Besides, the pony operating the instrument is far more essential, and my cello is in pristine hooves.
Your earth pony gimmick might be keeping the hoof draggers happy for now, but you couldn't even tell a tremolo from a piccolo.
Vinyl had sat with a box of something resembling popcorn, which had instead been coated with caviar, chocolate, and anything ostentatious the chef could get his hooves on. The entertainment far outclassed the refreshments. She made mental notes on which insults pushed Octavia's buttons the most. A timid earth pony came from behind her, beige-coated with a puffy pink and purple mane. She tapped Vinyl on the shoulder, causing her to spin around mid-insult.
You're Octavia's friend, right?
Vinyl swallowed the popcorn, somewhat regretting the chef's choice of adding quail's eggs to the garnish of that hoofful.
I suppose it could be called that. Vinyl Scratch. Pleased to make your acquaintance.
She offered a hoof, which the earth pony took in a firm shake.
Bonbon. I see Octavia and Lyra have already started their catch-up.
Yep, it's pretty fun to watch. I'm guessing they're not great friends.
Oh, it's sad that they rile each other up so much. Honestly, they'll be there until their set comes up. If you'd like, we can grab some good seats in the theater. Best to get somewhere close to the front for the performance before they're all taken.
Vinyl mulled over the idea, her eyes listing over to see Octavia vehemently gesturing at the unicorn in a way she found very endearing. She couldn't hear what she was saying anymore, as the murmur in the room had masked Octavia's level-volumed rage. She nodded to Bonbon, grabbing a tray of tiny cupcakes with edible ball bearings on them as she exited. A waiter smiled at her as she passed, his coat light brown, with an hourglass cutie mark. One last glance revealed Octavia to be making hoof gestures far less cultured than she would like to believe. Ultimately, Vinyl had made a mental note to tease her for everything such a transgression was worth. Bonbon led Vinyl out into the theater hall. Despite the grandeur of the exterior, in all its neo-Gothic glory, the interior was pretty much the same as any other hall Vinyl had been to. A rare few halls, but she had went on trips to pantomimes as a filly. The stage was a semicircular plate of perfectly smooth wood, almost as if it were carved from one tree trunk. Beyond it stretched seats arranged in rows all the way to the edge, like the old Ponan Colosseum, creating an inclined semicircle focused toward the stage in its center. They found a pair of seats near the front row where there were few other ponies in the hall. Vinyl supposed no pony wanted to see a rehearsal or audition, they'd much rather see the finished product. Unless it was like Equestrian Idol, if those sorts of auditions were the subject matter at hoof, then Vinyl felt she would enjoy the night. Bonbon took a seat near the gangway, while Vinyl sat next to her, and the tray of pilfered cupcakes took its socially acceptable place precariously balancing on the space between them. While Vinyl would have enjoyed to hoard the cupcakes to herself, Bonbon didn't seem to be that bad a pony, and her manners simply wouldn't allow selfishness anyway, not just because Octavia had told her to be polite and cultured either. She turned to Bonbon, who she imagined had attended this sort of tirade before, and she could probably help her prepare for whatever was coming.
So, what's this all about then?
Bonbon coughed politely, pointing a hoof at a quartet of ponies seated alone in the front row.
It's an audition for the Grand Galloping Gala. Very prestigious. Lyra missed out last year for personal reasons. She's hoping to get a place on the band that plays in the music hall there. It's a great boost for her pony Sona.
So, Lyra and Octi are arguing over who gets to play music for the gala. Can't they just both play?
Oh, possibly. It's 2 string pieces, pianist, and a bass instrumentalist normally. They could both play, but Celestia helped the pony that has to get those 2 to collaborate.
Vinyl practically drooled at the prospect of some juicy gossip to collect. She lifted the plate of ball-bearing cupcakes to Bonbon's attention.
Want some of these, by the way? Can't eat them all by myself.
A blatant lie, if there ever was one.
Oh, I really shouldn't. But hey, my cutie mark is a bunch of sweets.
She cursively scanned over the cakes, grabbing the one with the most prolific spattering of icing sugar.
I promised Lyra I'd cut down on sugary treats, but it's difficult to resist most times.
I hear you, Philly. Why'd you promise Lyra that anyway? You two on a diet together or something?
Bonbon blushed, giggling into her hoof.
It's a bit more than a diet. We're married.
Vinyl's cupcake somehow found a way to violently lodge itself in her trachea. Anticipation welled in Octavia's bloodstream, seemingly giving her heart 10 times the work at 20 times the beat rate. She scanned around the room as slowly, one by one, ponies filtered out. Ponies she'd seen before, that she knew couldn't best her. However, the one she was wary of still sat nearby, practicing on her lyre. The thought had occurred to Octavia to divert her attention through practice, but she felt Lyra would find a catty remark or other if she dared try. The one thing that had fractured the surface of her haughty facade was the revelation of the pony presiding over the judging panel. Even thinking his name gave Octavia goosebumps. Hoof's Zimmer had been a lifetime inspiration. The reason she had begged her parents for an instrument on Winter's Moon Day, no less. This iconic composer had been the subject of much lavishly applied praise from herself over Octavia's lifetime, and the very concept of playing in front of him made her legs feel unstable.
Oh dear, Octavia. Not going to faint in front of our esteemed guest tonight?
Lyra had stopped practicing, glaring at Octavia with that familiar, challenging grin.
I'm afraid not, Lyra. I imagine he's eager to hear my piece first. Hence why you've been placed at the back of the queue.
Lyra twitched slightly at the jibe.
Saving the best until the last, and getting the trash out as soon as possible.
Well, if it helps you sleep at night, how was it for work last year?
Octavia was tip-hoofing the line, waiting for a response to gauge whether she could push onwards. Lyra scowled with a glare that would humble dragons.
You know full well what happened, Octavia. But I'm not fussed at all. In fact, the only reason you got the position was due to my absence. Your revelry is over now.
And now they know how much better they can do. It's a real pity you had to dump an entire career of supposed celebrity for some mare from a backward squalor like Ponyville.
Lyra's mint-green face was cut across with throbbing, angry veins.
You dare say a single word more about Bonbon, and I will wrap that precious little bow around your neck, so then you'll have 2 bow ties, and I'll make sure both of them are extra tight.
Octavia hastily drew herself as far away from the line as ponily possible, without coming across as submissive or defeated. She attempted to consider an apology or reconciliation, but was cut off in her effort by the portly colt calling ponies onto the stage. It was her turn. Instead, she retreated away from Lyra, unpacking her cello and waving a hoof at the glowering mare. She received all the motivation she expected.
Break a bucking leg, Octavia, or your neck.